Have you ever noticed what happens when a man refuses to be controlled? Not just by people, but by the expectations, the manipulations, the invisible hands that try to mold him into something he is not? Something strange begins to unfold. Those who once smiled at you start whispering behind your back. The ones who praised you suddenly turn cold. And those who claim to support you, they begin to place obstacles in your path. It is not because you have wronged them, not because you have changed for the worse, but because you have done something unforgivable in their eyes. You have become free, and freedom is terrifying, not to you, but to them. Because when a man walks unchained, when he is beyond the reach of guilt, beyond the pull of manipulation, beyond the illusion of fear, he exposes something that others desperately try to hide. He exposes their weakness, their need to control, their inability to stand alone, their dependence on the validation of others. And when they see that you no longer play by their rules, they panic. Because if you can be free, if you can walk away from the games, the guilt, the invisible chains, then what excuse do they have for not doing the same? So they react, not with admiration, but with attack. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult." And when you dare to stand on your own, you force others to confront their own cowardice. Instead of following, most will fight to bring you down. They cannot stand that you are not afraid. They cannot stand that you do not need them. They cannot stand that they can no longer control you. And so they will do 6 things. 6 tactics, desperate, cunning, sometimes cruel, that reveal their true nature. If you have ever wondered why people change when you begin to grow, if you have ever felt the weight of unseen forces pulling you back when you try to move forward, then stay with me. By the time this video ends, you will see through their illusions. You will understand the unspoken rules that govern control. And most importantly, you will know how to remain untouchable. Because the strongest man is not the one with the loudest voice, nor the one with the greatest power. The strongest man is the one who cannot be controlled. And that man is you. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Every like, subscribe, helps us continue our mission of sharing knowledge. And leave a comment below and share your opinion on these things. Or tell me which one resonates with you the most. Ready to unlock more wisdom? Let's get started. Thing 1. They will try to isolate you. When a man cannot be controlled, the first and most immediate reaction from those who seek power over him is to isolate him. They understand something deeply psychological, something that has been true for as long as men have walked this earth. Solitude is both a prison and a forge. A man who is alone can be broken. Cut him off from his friends, his family, his sources of support, and he will begin to question himself. The ancient tyrants knew this. The religious inquisitors knew this. The manipulators of today know this. The moment they see that you will not submit, that you will not bow to their expectations, they begin the silent work of turning the world against you. But there is another truth, one even greater. A man who is alone can also be reforged. Seneca wrote, "The mind that is anxious about the future is miserable." And those who fear losing control over you want nothing more than to make your present moment unbearable. They do this by attacking your relationships. They spread doubt. They whisper rumors. They plant small seeds of division that grow into great forests of distrust. They know that a man is easier to break when he is isolated. Perhaps you have seen this already. Perhaps you have noticed how, the moment you began thinking for yourself, some people in your life started acting differently. They spoke less warmly. They hesitated before inviting you. They began to forget to include you in plans. Or worse, they spoke against you when you were not there to defend yourself. This is the way of the weak. The weak do not attack you directly. That would require courage. Instead, they manipulate. They sow doubt. They whisper half-truths into the ears of those closest to you, knowing that with enough time, they can create distance between you and those you trust. Why? Because the only thing more dangerous than a man who cannot be controlled is a man who cannot be controlled and is surrounded by allies who think the same way. They fear what will happen if you find others like you, and so they seek to separate you. They push you to the edges of your social circles, making you question whether you truly belong. They manufacture loneliness, knowing that loneliness is one of the most painful experiences a man can endure. But here is where their plan backfires. Because isolation, though painful, is also powerful. It is in solitude that the greatest minds of history have found themselves. It is in isolation that men have been forced to confront their own thoughts, their own weaknesses, their own strengths. A man who is never alone never truly knows himself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, ruled the Roman Empire at a time when enemies surrounded him both outside and within. But even as the world sought to control him, even as politics and war tried to shape him into something weak, he wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This is the lesson they do not want you to learn. They believe that by isolating you, they are punishing you. They believe that by turning others against you, they are weakening you. But what they do not realize is that solitude is where the strongest men are made. If you find yourself alone, do not despair. If you notice friends turning into strangers, if you feel the cold distance growing between you and those you once trusted, understand that this is not the end of you. This is the beginning of your transformation. Do not beg for their acceptance. Do not fight to be understood. Let them go. Let them walk away. Let them gossip. Let them scheme. In time, you will come to see that their absence was a gift, not a punishment. Because the man who walks alone and emerges stronger is a man who can never be manipulated again. And that is what they fear the most. Thing 2, they will mock and ridicule you. When they see that isolating you is not enough, when they realize that solitude has not broken you, but instead sharpened you, they move to the next weapon in their arsenal: ridicule. This is the tactic of the desperate. They cannot force you to conform. They cannot guilt you into obedience. So they turn to mockery, hoping that laughter will break you where isolation could not. This is not new. It is as old as time itself. The crowd has always feared the man who walks against it. In ancient Athens, Socrates was mocked and ridiculed for his ideas, for questioning the norms of society, for daring to think differently. They laughed at him, insulted him, called him a fool. And when they saw that their words had no effect, that he would not bend, that he would not stop asking questions, they condemned him to death. But before he drank the hemlock, before he accepted his fate with unshaken resolve, he left behind a lesson. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. This was his crime. Not arrogance, not violence, not rebellion. His crime was that he could not be controlled. And when the powerful cannot control a man, they seek to turn him into a joke. And so it is today. If you do not follow the herd, you will be called strange. If you do not conform to expectations, they will mock you. If you dare to stand alone, if you refuse to bow to trends, if you do not play the game, they will laugh at you. They will say you are lost, that you are confused, that you are foolish for choosing your own path instead of the safe and well-trodden road they blindly follow. Mockery is the easiest form of attack. It requires no courage, no intelligence, no strength, only a sharp tongue and a weak mind. It is the tactic of those who are afraid, those who know deep down that they themselves are trapped but lack the strength to break free. Look around you. See how society treats those who do not conform. The freethinker is ridiculed. The man who seeks wisdom instead of pleasure is mocked. The one who chooses discipline over indulgence is called extreme. The one who speaks truth instead of comforting lies is labeled dangerous. Why? Because ridicule is their last defense. It is their final attempt to pull you back into the herd before they are forced to accept the truth, that you are no longer one of them. They laugh not because they are strong, but because they are afraid. They mock because they do not understand you, and what the weak do not understand, they fear. But here is where their plan collapses. Ridicule only works on those who seek validation. It only wounds those who need approval. But the man who has conquered himself, the man who stands on his own 2 feet, the man who no longer craves the acceptance of the crowd, he is untouchable. Epictetus, a former slave who rose to become one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood this well. He taught that insults have no power unless you give them power. If a man calls you a fool, Epictetus said, do not be angry. Ask yourself, is it true? If it is not, then his words mean nothing. If it is, then you have learned something about yourself. Either way, you have not been harmed. This is the secret they do not want you to know. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop caring about their mockery, their laughter becomes meaningless. They will call you strange? Good. They will say you are different? Excellent. They will mock you for refusing to be like them? Perfect. Because the truth is, you do not want their approval. You do not need their acceptance. Their laughter is proof that you are on the right path. Because no great man, no truly free man, has ever walked through life without being ridiculed by those who were too afraid to follow. And when they see that you do not flinch, when they realize that their laughter does not shake you, they will panic. Because they will understand you cannot be reached. And a man who cannot be reached is a man they can never control. Thing 3. They will attempt to guilt you into submission. When isolation fails and ridicule does not shake you, they resort to something far more insidious: guilt. Because while they may not be able to reach your mind through mockery, they will attempt to reach your heart through manipulation. They will make you feel as though your strength is a betrayal, as though your refusal to be controlled is not an act of self-respect but an act of selfishness. They will twist your values against you, using your loyalty, your kindness, your sense of responsibility as weapons to break you. They will tell you that you have changed, that you used to be someone they could count on, someone who cared, someone who understood their struggles. They will remind you of everything they have done for you, every sacrifice they have made, every moment they stood by your side, not out of genuine love, but as leverage. And if you are not careful, you will feel the weight of this manipulation. You will feel as though standing your ground is an act of cruelty, that walking your own path is a betrayal, that choosing yourself is wrong. But here is what they will never tell you. True loyalty is never one-sided. A man should not feel guilty for refusing to be a servant. He should not be shamed for choosing his own well-being over the demands of those who only seek to use him. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And yet, those who seek to control you will demand that you do what is not right, say what is not true, all in the name of so-called loyalty. But loyalty to whom? To those who never truly valued you? To those who only supported you when you were easy to control? To those who disappear the moment you refuse to be what they want you to be? That is not loyalty. That is slavery. They will say you have become distant, that you are too focused on yourself, that you do not care anymore. But ask yourself this: were you ever allowed to care about yourself before? Or were you only valuable when you were giving, sacrificing, obeying? A strong man does not allow guilt to shape his choices. He does not let the expectations of others define his path. He walks forward, even as the voices around him beg him to turn back, even as they remind him of the past, even as they try to tether him to a version of himself that no longer exists. Because that is what they are really mourning. Not the loss of you, but the loss of their power over you. They do not miss you. They miss the version of you that was easy to control, the version of you that put their needs before your own, the version of you that apologized for wanting more, for expecting better, for choosing yourself. And now that you no longer play that role, they seek to bring you back through guilt. But guilt is only a weapon if you allow it to be. If they tell you that you have changed, accept it as a compliment. If they say you have become distant, understand that it is because you have risen beyond their reach. If they say you do not care, remind yourself that caring does not mean allowing yourself to be used. And when they see that guilt has no hold on you, that their manipulations fall upon deaf ears, they will grow desperate, because they will finally understand what they feared all along: that you are free, that you do not owe them your submission, and that no amount of guilt will ever make you bow again. Thing 4. They will create conflict to destabilize you. When isolation, ridicule, and guilt fail to bend you, they will turn to something more aggressive. They will seek to unsettle you, to shake your foundation, to make you doubt your own strength by dragging you into unnecessary conflict. They understand that a man who is at peace with himself is powerful. A man who is calm, collected, and unmoved by petty distractions is a man they cannot touch. And so, they will do everything they can to disrupt that peace. They will create chaos where none existed. They will provoke you with insults, with challenges, with accusations, hoping that you will react emotionally, hoping that they can pull you into a war that was never meant to be fought. This is the tactic of the weak. They do not attack with strength, but with deception. They seek to exhaust you, to pull you away from your purpose, to make you so consumed by meaningless battles that you forget why you started walking your own path in the first place. You will see this in many forms. The friend who suddenly starts finding faults in everything you do. The family member who constantly stirs drama where there is none. The coworker who spreads falsehoods to turn others against you. The partner who starts arguments over the smallest things, hoping to drain your energy, hoping to make you doubt yourself. They will accuse you of things you never did. They will twist your words, distort your intentions, make you feel as though no matter what you do, you are wrong. And if you allow yourself to fall into their trap, you will find yourself defending, explaining, justifying, playing their game on their terms. But this is what they want. They want you distracted. They want you fighting battles that do not matter. They want you drowning in conflict so that you never have the time, the energy, or the clarity to move forward. Because a man who is constantly at war cannot build his empire. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As the most powerful man in Rome, he was surrounded by betrayal, by deceit, by those who sought to control him through chaos. And yet he did not waste his time engaging in petty battles. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the key. The moment you refuse to be provoked, the moment you refuse to be dragged into senseless conflict, you take away their only weapon. Because they are not truly strong. They are parasites, feeding off your reaction, thriving on your anger, growing stronger only when you give them your attention. But a man who does not react is a man they cannot reach. They will test you, they will push you. They will insult you in ways designed to cut deep. They will try to pull you into arguments where there is no right answer, where no matter what you say, you will lose. And when they see that you do not respond, when they realize that their chaos no longer affects you, they will panic, because they will see that you have mastered something they never could, yourself. A controlled man cannot be manipulated. A man who chooses his battles cannot be led into meaningless wars. A man who is focused on his own purpose will not be distracted by the noise of those who seek to bring him down. So let them create their conflicts. Let them try to pull you into their storms. Watch them from a distance, knowing that their chaos does not belong to you, knowing that their desperation is proof of your strength. And when they finally see that you will not be moved, when they realize that their words, their provocations, their attempts at war have all failed, they will be left with nothing. Because the only thing more terrifying than a man they cannot control is a man they cannot even disturb. Thing 5. They will sabotage you in secret. When all else has failed, when they see that isolation did not break you, ridicule did not shame you, guilt did not bend you, and conflict did not distract you, they resort to something far more insidious. They will move in the shadows. At this stage, they know they cannot control you openly. They know their tactics of pressure and manipulation have failed. So instead of confronting you directly, they begin to work behind your back. They whisper in secret, plant doubts in the minds of others, create unseen obstacles, and attempt to poison your path with invisible hands. This is the point where they become the most dangerous, not because they have grown stronger, but because they have grown desperate. They no longer believe they can break you face to face, so they move like cowards, trying to make the world around you turn against you. You will notice strange patterns. Opportunities that seemed certain will suddenly vanish. Friends who once stood beside you will become cold, distant, hesitant. People will hear falsehoods about you before you have a chance to speak. A quiet force will seem to be working against you, making life more difficult. Not in dramatic ways, but in subtle, exhausting ways. And this is how they hope to stop you. Not by defeating you in battle, but by making you so exhausted, so frustrated, that you decide to give up on your own. But what they do not understand is that sabotage only works on the weak. It works on men who are fragile, men who expect an easy road, men who seek fairness from the world. But you have already faced worse. The Stoics knew that life itself is unfair, that the world will always contain unseen enemies and hidden obstacles. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the lesson they do not want you to learn. They want you to believe that life has become unfair because of them. They want you to believe that the universe is against you, that your struggle is unnatural, that your difficulties are signs you should turn back. But a man who understands the nature of the world knows the truth. Obstacles are the path. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Every challenge, every roadblock, every act of sabotage is another stone added to the road you are building. They think they are stopping you, but in reality, they are forcing you to become stronger. This is why their plan will fail, because you are no longer a man who is surprised by hardship. You do not expect the road to be easy. You do not waste time complaining when things go wrong. You do not see obstacles as signs to stop. You see them as confirmations that you are moving forward. Let them sabotage. Let them plot in the darkness. Let them whisper their lies and weave their traps. It will not matter, because you will not stop. And that is what terrifies them most. They are used to men who give up. They are used to men who break at the first sign of difficulty. They are used to men who care too much about fairness, about reputation, about being liked. But a man like you, a man who keeps moving forward despite everything, they have no defense against that. So when you see their games, when you notice the quiet war they are waging against you, smile. Not because it is easy, not because it does not hurt, but because you now have proof that you have become exactly what they feared, a man who cannot be stopped. And when they finally realize that, when they see that nothing they do can break you, there's only one thing left for them to do. They will surrender. Thing 6. They will suddenly act like they support you. After everything they have done, after trying to isolate you, after ridiculing you, after manipulating you with guilt, after creating conflict, after attempting to sabotage you in the shadows, there comes a moment when they realize the truth. You are beyond their reach, and that is when their final tactic is revealed. They will change their masks, they will rewrite history. They will act as if they were on your side all along. They will come to you with words of admiration, pretending they always believed in you, pretending they always supported your path, pretending that they never tried to break you. This is not a gesture of peace. It is not an admission of guilt. It is not a sign of true respect. It is a final, desperate attempt to regain access to your mind. They know they can no longer stop you. They know that no force, neither isolation, nor mockery, nor manipulation, nor conflict, nor sabotage, has been able to shake you from your path. But instead of admitting defeat, they try something else. They attempt to re-enter your world not as enemies, but as allies. This is a test. They hope that now, with all your success, with all your progress, you will be generous, that you will let them back into your circle, that you will forget how they tried to tear you down, that you will welcome them, trusting that they have changed. And if you do, if you let them back in, the cycle begins again, because they have not truly changed. They are not coming to you with respect, but with strategy. They do not admire you, they envy you. They do not support you, they resent your success, but cannot deny it. And so they switch tactics, not to celebrate you, but to gain proximity. Because proximity means influence, and influence is the one thing they have lost over you. They know that the closer they are to you, the more control they can try to reclaim. Maybe they won't attack you outright. Maybe they won't sabotage you immediately. But over time, little by little, they will try to plant seeds of doubt. They will try to steer your thoughts, to get you to compromise, to make small concessions that will slowly pull you back under their influence. But a wise man sees through this. The Stoics understood that a person's true nature is revealed in adversity. The way someone treats you when you are struggling, when you are alone, when you have nothing to offer them, that is who they truly are. Not the words they speak once you have risen above them. Epictetus warned against trusting those who have proven themselves unworthy, writing, "Be careful whom you allow to shape your mind. The company you keep will influence your thoughts more than you realize." You do not owe them a second chance. You do not owe them a place in your life simply because they now see your value. If they could not support you in your struggle, they do not deserve to stand beside you in your triumph. This is not about hatred. It is not about bitterness. It is not about seeking revenge. It is about wisdom. A lion does not invite the jackals back into his den after they have spent years trying to tear him apart. He does not lower himself to the level of those who once despised him simply because they have now changed their tone. Neither should you. You are no longer the man they tried to break. You are no longer the man who needed their approval. You are no longer the man who seeks validation from those who once mocked him. You have risen beyond them, and that is something they will never forgive. Because at the end of it all, it was never really about you. It was about their fear. Their fear of seeing someone escape the system they are still trapped in. Their fear of watching a man walk freely while they remain chained to their own weaknesses. Their fear of being reminded that they too could have chosen discipline over indulgence, strength over comfort, truth over illusion, but they didn't. You are living proof of what they could have been. And that is why they hated you. And that is why they now pretend to admire you. But a man who has walked through fire does not forget who tried to throw him into the flames. A man who has endured the storm does not forget who prayed for his ship to sink. He moves forward, alone if necessary, without fear, without regret. Because the greatest revenge is not anger. It is not destruction. It is success. And they will never ever control you again.